Hi, Media 360 audience. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you today on this video. What I want to talk about is rethinking mobile. My name is Bonin Bough. I'm the Vice President of Global Media and Consumer Engagement for Mondelez International. But before we get into my thoughts on rethinking mobile, let's take a quick moment to look at Mondelez International. In early October, Mondelez International spun off Kraft Food Group to become one of the world's largest snacking companies. We have a singular focus, which is creating delicious moments of joy. I feel very privileged to have the chance to work at an organization which sees themselves as one of the world's largest startups, at the same time as working with some of the world's most beloved brands. Whether it's Oreo, Cadbury Dairy Milk, Belvita, Toblerone, or any of the other amazing snack foods that we have in our portfolio, it's an honor and a privilege to have the chance to work on these products. So as we look at mobile, I think this slide kind of summarizes the situation that we face in every single boardroom, or in a number of boardrooms, which is you have one person at the end saying, I think we need a mobile strategy, but everybody else is so heads down that finally somebody looks up and said, sorry, did you say something? But I also think what it does is it showcases the situation that we have in society at large, which is we have become a society of distracted individuals more and more. And so people will tell you that they're not distracted. People will look at their phone, and when you talk to them, they'll look up briefly if they keep talking, I'm paying attention. But in reality, that's a lie. In fact, there were studies that have been done, a study that was done by the American Society of Psychiatric Practitioners that showed that we are actually more distracted by mobile devices than ever before, and that as part of this test group, they found that people actually had a 10-point decrease in their IQ when using mobile devices, which is twice as much as if you were to smoke marijuana. So I guess the going thought is that you're better off you're better off smoking pot than pretending that you can multitask. But mobile devices have this growth engine that is unparalleled. And so if you look at the world, there are 5.1 billion mobile phones in the world, and there are 7 billion people, and there are 5.1 billion mobile phones, and yet there are only 4.2 billion toothbrushes. And so I always get this question, are mobile phones at scale? Well, if we believe that toothbrushes are at scale, then clearly mobile phones are. And I guess the other 1.1 billion didn't get the text message about the importance of hygiene. But beyond just the proliferation and ubiquity of mobile devices, it's the pace at which they've grown, which is a concern for pause for us to think about what implications that has. So when you look at this next slide, it really shows that over the last, it took radio to reach 50 million, it took it 38 years. It took 13 years for television, and it took 4 years for computers. And it only took 2 years, not just for mobile, but 2 years just for the iPhone to reach 50 million. So clearly the growth rates are unprecedented. And they've had huge implications from a societal impact. So I love this slide. And basically what it says is honk if you love Jesus, text while driving if you want to meet him. And what's interesting is that it continues to show how much mobile phones have been taken into cultural context, whether it's in this case part of kind of a religious message that's being delivered from the church out to make sure that patrons are safe. What's interesting is this is the guy who we have to blame. Mr. Cooper was an engineer at Motorola. And at that time, he's the inventor of the cell phone. At that time, what he thought he was creating was a device that would allow people to communicate untethered by wires. But in reality, what he really created was an entire universe of connected devices, a world where every single product, every single device, every single object will actually begin to live inside of this connected world, inside of the internet. It's interesting because when you look at us, people are projecting that every single one of the products that we create or that are sold in retail will be connected to the internet by 2020, which, if you think about the scale at which we operate on, might make us one of the largest technology companies in the world. And we have to continue to ask ourselves, are we prepared and ready to actually be the largest technology company? Do we have the skill sets? Do we have the capabilities? Do we have the process in place to help us grow and leverage that to a competitive advantage? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about and why mobile is so important. So the next slide shows really 4 core reasons why we should be thinking about mobile, why mobile's right for us. First, from a consumer perspective. If you actually look at consumer and consumer behavior, whether it's growth rates, whether it's usage, whether it's the fact that this is the only device that you have, within 24 feet of you at every single time, or if you think about, how many of you out there have felt that your phone rang in your pocket, but then when you actually checked, your phone actually didn't ring. And this is actually a condition that's growing up called phantom vibration syndrome. And I'm sure that some of the big pharmaceutical companies will come out with a drug to solve that for you. But the fact of the matter is that this is clearly the device that has become the closest to the consumer. And it also represents their preferences, it's convenient, and it's a very personal device. So there's huge opportunity to unlock that. If you look at it from a pure business perspective, there's unparalleled and untapped opportunity from an investment side. So currently about 24% of all media is consumed on a mobile device, but less than 1% of investment is actually going there. So it's ripe. And when you actually look at things like Google talking about, as you dismantle some of their earnings, you're seeing that they're actually making that the engagement rates on the mobile search business are higher than on the traditional search, but yet they're still not charging for the same amount. So there is this weird discrepancy right now where there's a huge opportunity to take advantage from an investment standpoint. As a media choice, it's at scale. I think we proved that with the toothbrush example. But it also is huge levels of engagement. So whether it's mobile games or applications or Facebook or Twitter, every single one of the numbers that we see point to higher engagement rates on this mobile device than on any other device that we have. And quite frankly, it's efficient. And I think part of that is justifiable by its current cost differential. The other piece, which is probably the most important for organizations or CPGs or FMCGs like ourselves, is that it creates an opportunity for retail partnerships. So not only does this device allow us to influence, but it also will eventually allow us to be close to the purchase funnel. So those are really the 4 core reasons why mobile is right. And then the next slide really talks about how do we as an organization see ourselves getting there. So one of the things that we've kind of put out there is really this commitment to getting to 10% of all spending on mobile. And I know people say, well, is it right to do allocations? I guess the biggest driver for us is that aspirations without allocations are meaningless. So how do we figure out how to allocate the appropriate amount so that we can build the capabilities and competencies needed to be a #1 or a leading mobile marketer in the world? So from that getting to 10, we've really tried to follow a specific framework. If you believe, like I do, that strategy is about sacrifice, then you have to make some key decisions on where you're going to play. What are the drill sites that you see being able to win? And for us, those are 4 areas that fit into 2 buckets. The 2 buckets being, how do we increase overall media ROI? How do we continue to drive our overall value of media on a consistent basis? And then also, how do we influence purchase? So how do we go from awareness and messaging down to actual buy? The first inside of increased media is really reach. So we know that more and more people are viewing video on demand and on their mobile device. How do we continue to create investment strategies that allow us to take advantage of that behavior? Whether it's looking for convergent pricing from some of our network partners, or whether it's working closer with the likes of YouTube, so on and so forth, or other video services around the world, as we begin to build out a true video competency on mobile phones. So really getting to video equivalency so that we can look at the world as one screen and not a first screen, second or third, but one screen where we can deliver a seamless video product that connects and drives emotional connection with our brands. The second is really this area around social TV. And I think social TV is we're using it in its broadest sense. So one is the connected viewing experiences. So I create a deliberate viewing experience between the television and my device, whether it's additional content, whether it's something that you watch at the same time, or there is this massive growth of consumer conversation happening during TV shows, and we've seen that across kind of across the globe at every single region and market that we look at, that consumers are participating on Twitter, on Facebook, on RenRen, on Weibo, on you name said social site, and the spikes of conversation are happening during TV, or during big TV program, whether it's appointment viewing or even past well-loved shows. So that consumer trend is huge, and how do we begin to take advantage of it? From a very pure measurement numerical place, a lot of work that we've done has shown that when we run digital in conjunction with TV, that we actually see an increase in the effectiveness of the TV spot. In some cases, 2x. So we think if we're more deliberate, we might even be able to increase that 2, 3, 4, 5x. In fact, I think a great example is the Coca-Cola chalk ad that was done in Hong Kong, making that the #1 spot for the last 30 years in Hong Kong, where that tied a mobile phone to a TV, and I would encourage you to go look at it. It's inspirational for me, but I think continues to prove out that statement. On the influence purchase part, it's really about how do we look at mobile media and its ability to drive impulse. So this is the one device that you have with you throughout the consumer journey. No matter where you go, from the time you wake up, in store, on your commute, at home, in front of your TV later on during prime time, we know that this is the device you have with you. How do we begin to buy media at appropriate times to drive that impulse purchase? Whether it's in the morning when you're beginning your commute and you're about to pass by a convenience store, or whether it's at lunchtime, which is kind of digital prime time, when we know you're out and about and our products are readily available to you, or whether it's on your way to that shopping trip. Or even when you're watching one of our television spots. So how do we begin to use advertising on this platform and engagement on this platform to drive impulse? And then the last piece is at retail. So how do we use it to create loyalty? Whether it's from changing the packaging so that mobile phone interacts with every single one of our packaging, or looking at transforming POS, so in-store point of sale, where you might be able to scan a shelf talker or engage with with an actual stand that's at shelf. Any of those type of things we're looking at and building this loyalty relationship with consumers. So that gives you a general sense of our framework. We've been putting that framework into place starting in early February, to be quite frank. In early February, we engaged in a deal with Nokia to build out a mobile lab, really to start to explore the engagements that we can have with consumers in mobile. What was great about Nokia and Windows 8 is that it gave us access to an entire ecosystem, a platform that stretched from everything from Xbox to desktop to TV or smart TV, all the way back to mobile phones. And so one of the programs that have come out of that is a platform called Oreo Skies. Oreo Skies is actually launching or will have launched at Mobile World Congress, and should be really exciting, and we look forward to you having a chance to engage with it and share your thoughts. And there's a number of these types of activations that we've done across the mobile space, whether it's at retail, on brand specifically, and you'll continue to see us do that as we shift our investment. But it's not just enough to allocate and identify the right partners and deliver programs across what I think are some of the better known channels within mobile, but we also have to challenge ourselves to actually look at what's next. And so that's what we've done, and we've done that by launching a program called Mobile Futures. And what Mobile Futures is it's our mobile accelerator. And the goal of Mobile Futures is to identify entrepreneurs and startups that we can work with to help us pilot mobile platforms moving forward. Platforms that are at the forefront of the mobile industry, and really figuring out ways to work very closely with entrepreneurs and at the same time challenge ourselves to think differently. The tagline of Mobile Futures is the future in 90 days. So we started off by creating a very confined deadline space that fits to the same timelines as startups do, so that we could force ourselves to begin to operate at that same pace. Mobile Futures really has two phases. Phase one is about scaling existing startups. So identifying startups that are in the marketplace that meet the objectives of our 3 pillars, the first being social TV, the second being mobile at retail, and the third being solo mo with a real focus on location. So really scaling existing startups in that marketplace and putting pilots into the market within 90 days, so accelerating the pace of that pilot launch. And then there's a phase 2. And the second phase is about creating new startups, challenging ourselves to use our people to actually concept new startups that solve bigger business challenges that are direct to us, and at the same time bringing those to life within 90 days, maintaining that same pace that you have to operate as a startup. And so I think it's summed up really nicely in saying that phase one is really about collaborating with entrepreneurs. And phase two is about creating our own intrapreneurs. So taking the entrepreneurial spirit that we've learned from that collaboration and bringing that and challenging ourselves to do that internally. The bridge between this is really culture transference. So in phase one, we have an open call for startups where startups submit and we choose a number of those and we partner them with brands. And then our brand folks actually go and work for those startups for up to 2 weeks. And then in phase two, it's about bringing those startups back as mentors. And then we go away for 1 week and we actually come up with business plans, prototypes, and then we bring those to incubation and try to pitch those and get those funded from VCs. And so those are really the two phases. Again, we're focused on 3 areas, which is social TV, mobile at retail, and solo mo. So we're finding the best and brightest in that space. And what I think is so unique and different is not just that we've done these 2 unique phases, but that we've also surrounded both of those phases with a network of partners that's unprecedented. So we've brought the right partners that can help us bring these pilots and these new ventures to scale. Whether it's a Viacom to help us scale social TV applications, or an AT&T to help us scale mobile applications, or our retail partners like Come and Go and Quick Check to help us scale our retail plays. I think we've surrounded the program with the partners that are going to continue to help drive the scale necessary to prove that these startups and new ventures have the potential to actually create competitive advantage. At the same time, we wanted to make sure that we had the right measurements. So it's not just about measuring the impact of the pilots that are going to go into market, but it's also about measuring the cultural impact, the culture transference that's actually happened. So we've asked BCG to partner with us to help track our culture change as we go through Mobile Futures. So where are we now? So what's great is that Mobile Futures has launched. We've gone through the selection process of startups. We had hundreds of startups submit. From there, we chose 22 of them. 22 came in and presented to us in our East Hanover headquarters. And from there, we've chosen 9 startups to partner against 8 brands. And now we've gone through the cultural indoctrination phase where the startups have met the brands have gone and worked for the startups, and we're seeing fruits of that labor already and proof points that we're actually having cultural impact. So a number of the brand directors who came back, they feel blown away that the organization they work for is creating the opportunity for them to go do this. So I think that speaks volumes in and of itself, but they also come back with this exuberance, and some of them even say, man, maybe I should go work for that startup. We're like, no, don't do that yet. But what I love is the pivot that happens about 2 weeks later when they realize, wow, if I take these same principles and I apply them to Mondelez International that has a wealth of resources, then I can create really great things that can actually change the world and move the industry forward. So we're already having that, and in the next month and a half, we should start seeing these pilots roll into market. In fact, I think one pilot is actually launching very shortly, so ahead of the 90-day schedule, which is exciting. But I think the biggest learning that we've had is that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So we can sit back and we can have the future take toll on us and wish that we were at the forefront, or we can actually be a part of inventing that future. And that's what we firmly believe, hence the reason why we've called it Mobile Futures, but also put together what we think is one of the more innovative and cutting-edge programs in the mobile space today. So with that, I'm very excited to have had the opportunity to sit and have this conversation with you. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. I hope that I was able to keep your attention. But most of all, I hope that you'll continue the dialogue. And so I hope that I'll see you in social spaces and we can have the rest of this conversation out in the open amongst other people who are like-minded, who share the same passion and enthusiasm around mobile as we do. So thank you very much and have a lovely day.